Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa Haggerty. I'm the chair of the board of directors of Bruce House, and this is our 2020 edition of the annual general meeting. I'd like to welcome you all, and thank you for being with us tonight. So the members, just for the members and to know, the staff will be monitoring this meeting from different locations. So if there's any questions throughout, they will be available for you. I have verified with Patrick that we do have quorum for tonight's meeting, so we will proceed. The voting process, you'll see a poll question pop up on the screen. Just click on the answer you want, yes, no, or abstain. I will now do a land acknowledgement. Before we begin, Bruce House would love to acknowledge that we live, work, and enjoy traditional and unceded Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation territory, which reaches back to time immemorial. I would like to begin by approving the agenda for the 2019 AGM. To approve the minutes for the 2019 AGM.
Agenda first. Agenda first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, the agenda. We're going to do the agenda first. If I could get a motion.
I thought you had a mover for that.
I do.
No, you just go ahead and read it. Who's your...
Can I get a motion to approve?
I thought you had a motion.
Michelle?
Okay. She's not typing, but people went ahead and voted, so.
Oh, okay. Rachel?
Okay. We have 9 approved.
Okay, perfect. So we will move forward with the approval of the minutes for the 2019 AGM. Can I get a motion to move? Joan? And Stephanie?
Okay.
Perfect, thank you. So I'd like to introduce Lorraine Kelly, Manager of Finance and Administration, and Linda Truglia, Manager of Volunteer Services and Community Relations for video presentation.
Welcome, everyone. Hi, my name is Lorraine, and I'd like to start by discussing our Bruce House financial situation. 3 years ago, we were facing a difficult financial situation, and through careful monitoring of expenses and lean budgeting, we now have a surplus. This surplus has allowed us to contribute to our contingency fund. And this contingency fund is set up so that if we face another financial difficult situation in the future, we have the monies put aside for that. In the last few weeks of our fiscal year ending, which was mid-March, everything changed with COVID. Even our personal lives, I know that phrases such as, this is the new normal, unprecedented times. And I don't know about you, but I used to watch at 11 a.m. daily Prime Minister Trudeau telling us how we're doing in Canada. And eventually I stopped that because it was very depressing. But with Bruce House, we came through. We always seem to come through these difficult situations, and we came through. We looked at our program and services and made some changes so that we can meet the needs of the clients. We have now been able to provide with them, PPE, food, household items, and even cleaning items to keep their surroundings safe and clean. We've also extended a delivery service that this allows staff to deliver a food bag to our client that cannot come into the office, and it is set up that it is outside and the client can come pick it up. Bruce House has come through again, and a big part of it is because of our staff. Our staff are so committed to our clients, and they bring strength and hope to the clients that need that positive message. And we'd like to thank our staff again for their resiliency, their strength, their advocacy, their dedication, and the hard work that they provide. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to the 2020 Annual General Meeting. I would like to take a moment to share some highlights from this past year. As wonderful Lorraine mentioned, Bruce House has had a successful year. That success would not be possible without our generous community support and the receiving grants that have made it possible for our frontline program team to grow, which has led to an increase in client assistance within our programs and services. We've been able to increase our health and wellness program and our buddy program, both of which have helped with reducing social isolation for our clients. Our partnership with the Ottawa Food Bank has allowed us to better meet clients' nutritional needs. And our partnership with Somerset West Community Health Centre and Centretown Pharmacy has allowed us to provide mental health support for our clients within our office. We could not achieve any of this if we did not have an outstanding team, committed volunteers, and a community who cares. All of our lives changed in March, and Bruce House had to adapt its programming to maintain our essential services for our clients. We have been successful in meeting the needs of our clients. This would not be possible without our committed staff team. Thank you to our incredibly hardworking, caring program team who have had to adapt to the change in our delivery of programs and services since March, which has caused an increase to their workloads. We are so thankful to Ian Jama, Lana Duss, Sam Taylor, and Jean-Philippe Bergeron for their continued commitment and dedication. Thank you to our amazing Office and Communications Coordinator, Patrick Morley, for his creativity, passion, and strong advocacy for people living with and impacted by HIV in our community. Patrick has also had to adapt to many changes since March, and we cannot thank him enough for taking the lead and coordinating this first virtual annual general meeting. Thank you so much to Fatima Farad, who is our financial administration assistant. Thank you so much, Fatima, for your ongoing flexibility and commitment to Bruce House. We have recently hired Mariah Sylvester as our administration assistant, who is on a temporary contract with Bruce House, and we are looking for ways to keep her. She's just amazing. A heartfelt thank you to all of the Bruce House team. We are so grateful for you all, and I personally cannot thank you enough for being there professionally for me and personally. I feel Bruce House is a family. I would like to take a moment as well to acknowledge Doug Cooper. Doug Cooper retired in January 2019 from Bruce House after devoting 28 years of his career to the Bruce House family. We are unable to celebrate Doug in person at this annual general meeting, but we wanted to honor him. Once we're able to get together again, we will honor Doug Cooper in person. Until then, I want to share a few things. In the early years, Doug cared for people who were palliative and dying at Bruce House. Doug has been there for countless people who needed to feel cared for and who were scared and to not feel alone. Doug saw the creation of the supportive independent living program in the early years, and he witnessed many changes to Bruce House and within the community with people living with HIV. Doug and I worked together for 7 years, and I am grateful for that. Doug was such a great listener and extremely caring for clients, volunteers, and staff. He was always there for me when I needed him as a colleague and personally. I miss Doug dearly, but I am so happy that he found another passion that he loves so much. We all wish the best for Doug in his new career as manager, hairstylist, and barber at Hair Fellas. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here tonight.
Welcome, everyone. Hi, my name is Lorraine.
Hi, thank you. Okay, so next, if there's any questions, please feel free to send them through the chat group. Pat will be monitoring the chat group, and if there's any questions, we can have Linda or Lorraine come up and answer those for you. Are there any questions?
Yeah, from Glenn Muleshow, what is needed to keep the temporary staff position there?
So Linda?
Sure. Do you want to come up there? Which one are we talking about, Dawn?
The temporary would be Mariah.
Oh, Mariah. Hi. Talking to this?
Sorry, okay.
Hi. In terms of the Mariah's position, what is needed is funds. So if you have any lead for us on how to access some more funds, she will be with us until December. And after that, we don't have any funds to keep her. But I am more than happy to get any ideas on funding for Mariah's position. I would really appreciate it. Do you want me to give you my email, or Pat? You can, Pat can give my email over the chat. Thank you for asking that question.
Glenn says thanks.
Okay.
I'm just seeing if there's any other questions, but there don't seem to be.
Okay. New move.
Okay, let's just go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you, Linda.
No problem.
Okay, so if there's no more questions, we'll move on to our next topic. So next, I'll be introducing the auditor's report, Mr. Marc Brazeau. He's a partner of Marcel Lavallée, and it's going to be a video presentation by Marc Brazeau and his partner.
Bonjour, mon nom est Marc Brazeau. Je suis avec le cabinet Marcel-Lavallée. Hi everyone, my name is Marc Brazeau. I'm with the accounting firm Marcel-Lavallée. I'm happy to present the audited financial statements of Bruce House for the year ending March 31st, 2020. Ça fait plaisir de vous présenter les états financiers de Bruce House pour l'exercice clos le 31 mars 2020. I was told that the attendees have a copy of these financial statements, or either management will share the financial statements on the screen during my presentation. So I will take everyone to page 1, the Independent Auditor's Report. So before I start, I think it's important to thank Lorraine and Fatima for their utmost collaboration and cooperation during this audit process. Being in COVID-19 back in May 2020, it probably wasn't very foreseeable to do the audit off-site, this being our first year as auditors. Important for us to understand the activities of the organization, your internal control, your accounting processes as well, but I can tell you that the audit went very well. So back to the auditor's report. So this is the second year of this new format of auditor's report, and as you can see, the auditor's report is addressed to the directors. So first paragraph indicates that we've audited the financial statements of Bruce House for the year ending March 31st, 2020. As in previous years, there are a few qualifications in regards to the completeness of certain revenues. So I'll bring everyone to the third paragraph, which states that the organization derives revenue from donations, fundraising, and rental income, the completeness of which is not susceptible to satisfactory audit verification. So, Bruce House being a registered charity, we often find qualifications in regards to certain revenues. This, combined with the fact that there are very few people involved with the accounting of the organization, therefore segregation of duties in regards to certain revenues is a little bit more difficult. I'll now bring you to the second paragraph, our qualified opinion paragraph, which states that in our opinion, except for the effects of the matter that I just described in the third paragraph, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the organization as at year end, March 31st, 2020. I'll bring everyone to the middle part, other matter, which describes that last year's audited financial statements were audited by another accounting firm. I mentioned this at the beginning. Responsibilities of management and those charged with governance for the financial statements. So management, the Director of Finance, is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of these financial statements in accordance with Canadian accounting standards for not-for-profit organization. This new format of auditor's report brings responsibilities that are stated in the auditor's report on the first paragraph of page 2, which states that those charged with governance are responsible for overseeing the organization's financial reporting process. So this refers to the board of directors. So we can't expect the directors to be involved in the day-to-day activities. Therefore, their responsibilities in regards to the financial reporting process is limited to things such as reviewing and approving the annual budget. They'll receive and review interim financial statements. They met with the auditors to go over the draft financial statements. Some of them sign checks, approve expenses, etc. Then we find a section under other auditors' responsibilities for the audit of the financial statements. So this has been expanded. You'll see there are also 5 bullets on page 2. So the first paragraph states that our objectives as auditors are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue an auditor's report with our opinion. We've seen the opinion in the second paragraph on page 1. So what's important here is mostly the first two, most important ones are firstly the first two bullets, which states that we need as auditors to identify and assess the risk of material misstatements, whether due to fraud or error. So if we go back more than 10 or 15 years, auditors used to say to directors and to members, listen, we are not responsible for fraud. Don't expect us to find fraud during our audit. But the times have changed, and the auditors has a certain responsibility to see whether or not, to make sure, or not make sure, but to look at whether there might be fraud or error. And what we state in this first bullet is that fraud is more difficult to find than an error being an expense not recorded in the proper account, an expense that was recorded in April 2020 but belonged to the year ending March 31st, 2020. The auditor, it's easier for us to find those types of error. But when we talk about fraud, as stated in the last part of this first bullet, fraud may involve collusion, forgery, intentional omissions or misrepresentations, etc. And as you can see on the third page, the auditor's report was dated June 16, 2020, when the board approved the draft. I'll bring everyone to page 4. Page 4 is, we combine two statements. We combine the statement of operation and the statement of changes in net assets, and that's for a 12-month period from April 1st, 2019 to March 31st, 2020. So I'll invite everyone under the 2020 column, and you'll see revenues of a little over $792,000 compared to $789,000 last year. Most of the revenues come from two specific sources: grants and contribution for a little under $492,000, and rental income for the apartments at $159,000. So under grants and contribution, two major contributor: the Ministry of Health, which subsidizes the organization for a little over $250,000 a year, and the City of Ottawa that generates about $144,000 in revenue. You'll also see revenues from donations, from the Pride Run event, from fundraising activities, and you'll see under fundraising that the income was less in 2019-2020 compared to the previous year, mostly due to the Taste for Life event that generated about $15,000 less in income in this year. And finally, other revenue that combines other sources of revenue, including HST that is being recovered. So from that $792,000, we deduct expenses of $727,000, which generates an excess of revenue over expenses of roughly $65,000, which is less than last year at $110,000. But what's important to remember is as of March 31st, 2017, Bruce House was in a deficit position of almost $100,000, which the excess of revenue over expenses generated in the last 3 years have been able to wipe off this deficit, and you now find yourself in a good financial position. So before we go to the statement of changes in net assets, we'll go over the expenses. So as you can see, what are the two main sources of expenses? Well, there's salaries and benefits at $361,000. So I believe there was two part-time employees more this year compared to last year. There's also the expenses for the apartments, so rental income, rental expenses paid to CCOC, including electricity, heating, and other expenses that are all disclosed under the apartment category. There's rent, utilities, and maintenance for the main office of a little under $60,000, and the various other expenses for the year. You'll see that other fundraising costs has been less than last year. Again, the revenues were less for Taste for Life, and the expenses as well were less because there were less people that participated in that activity. So, going back to close to the end of page 4, you'll see the excess of revenue over expenses at $65,000. which we add to the net assets or the accumulated surplus at the beginning of the year of 96,000, and the organization now has net assets or accumulated surplus of 161,000. So the statement of changes in net assets is how the organization, how the results for the year increased or decreased their surplus or the deficit. But as you can see by page 4, the organization is in a surplus position of over 161,000. So we'll bring that amount to page 5, which is the statement of financial position. So this is the balance sheet. So it's a picture at year end of the assets. So if you look the middle of the page, you'll see assets of 213,000, less liabilities of 52,000, which gives us the net assets of 161,000 that we just saw on the previous page. So the assets are comprised of what? Well, as you can see, top part of page 5, you'll see that the assets are mainly comprised of cash at a little under 190,000, which is an increase from last year at 160,000. As for the liabilities, what are they? Well, they're mostly accounts payable, which includes salaries accrual at year-end, vacation accrual, etc., of 29,000, and some deferred revenue and some deferred grants and contribution. What are deferred grants and contributions? Well, they're amounts received prior to year-end, but has not been recognized as a revenue in the statement of operation, will be recognized as revenue this year as expenses are incurred. Okay, we'll bring you to the next page, page 6, which is the statement of cash flow. So a little less interesting. Statement of cash flow, more interesting for a business, now for a for-profit entity, now required, I believe, in the last 10 years approximately, to be added to the financial statements of not-for-profit organization. So what is the statement of cash flows? Well, it explains how cash went, and if you look at the bottom of this page, how cash went from 160,000 as of March 31st, 2019 to 189,000 at the end of this current year. So activities, we generated an excess of 64,000, so that helped. But there were also variance in other balance sheet accounts which decreased the cash. But the cash in the end increased by a little less than 29,000. And finally, we have the notes to the financial statements. Note 1 and Note 2, especially Note 2, important, the significant accounting policies. So there were no changes, and if you remember back when I was explaining the 5 bullets of the auditor's responsibilities, one of them is to oversee the significant accounting policies, make sure that they are accurate, and that the accounting follows these accounting policies. I'll bring you to Note 3 on page 9. I think it's important to see who is behind Bruce House in regards to grants and contributions. So you'll see that, as I mentioned, the Ministry of Health contributes a little over 253,000. The City of Ottawa. There's also a project with the MAC AIDS Fund and also the Ottawa Community Foundation, and there are other sources of grants and contribution to help pay for summer students, etc. So that amount of 491,000 we saw earlier in the statement of operations in the revenue section. I'll bring everyone also to Note 9. Note 9, subsequent event, is new this year. We refer to COVID-19, so we say that COVID-19 has had an impact on how the organization operates. As of when we signed the financial statements, and as of now still, we are still unsure how COVID-19 will affect the organization going forward. So this is what Note 9 refers to. And finally, the last page of the financial statements, page 12. So the Schedule A, Revenue and Expenses, Ministry of Health. So this funder asks the organization to disclose how their grant was used during the year, and specifically just the grant. So they want to see where the expenses were incurred. So as you can see, other operating expenses, we've shown the expenses in a different way than what we saw in the statement of operation. But as you can see, the organization used 100% of the grant that it received from the Ministry of Health. So these are your financial statements. I'm sorry that I can't be with you for the AGM. I'm sure Lorraine and the board will be able to answer most of your questions. If there are any questions regarding the auditor's report, Lorraine will send those questions to me and I will be able to answer them quickly, and she will then transfer that information back to you. So thank you very much. Merci beaucoup de votre attention et bonne fin d'AGM. Au revoir.
Okay, welcome back. Thank you, Marc Brazeau, for this great video. If there's any questions, we'll just give it a minute or so. If you feel free to send your questions through to the chat group, and Pat will be monitoring.
There's a comment from Jay Cornstra. It's heartening to see Bruce House coming out of the weeds, stabilizing and growing once again.
Oh, thank you. We'll just give it a few more moments.
Just thank them unless if there's any final questions. Nope, we're good.
Okay, great, thank you. Can I get a motion to appoint Marcel Lavallée as auditors for the 2020-2021 fiscal year? The motion is Joan. And the second is Steph.
And carried.
Perfect, thank you. Our next, I'll be introducing the video presented by the programs team.
Hi everyone, my name is Jean-Philippe Bergeron. I'm the new support rest worker here at Bruce House. So to talk a bit about this year, we actually did a shift when it comes to the essential services that we give to our clients. For example, we started to create care kits, which create different cleaning products, such as shampoo, hair products, and various other needs that our participants seem to have. Also, we enhance our deliveries, doing more food deliveries and food emergency box, as well as fresh vegetables straight to our clients. So, and this is what I do. So, bonjour tout le monde, mon nom est Jean-Philippe Bergeron, je suis le nouveau travailleur de support pour le programme REST ici à Bruce House. Donc, cette année, l'un des changements qu'on a fait, c'est on a fait une orientation nouvelle pour les besoins essentiels de nos clients. En quoi ça consiste? On a fait des nouvelles plus grandes livraisons par rapport à des légumes frais, par rapport à des care kits ou des kits de soins qui incluent différents produits comme des désinfectants pour les mains, des produits désinfectants pour les tables, du shampoing, des brosses à dents et plein d'autres choses qui étaient considérées essentielles pour nos clients. Donc, ceci est ce que j'ai fait pendant cette année et je vous souhaite un joyeux AGM et restez en sécurité. Stay safe. Goodbye.
Hi, my name is Lana Deuce. I am the program coordinator of the Supportive Independent Living program here at Bruce House. And this year we are very proud that we have been able to increase the number of units in our apartment program, also known as the Supportive Independent Living program, as well as welcome our newest member to the program team, Jean-Philippe Bergeron. And with this new position that JP has filled, we have been able to provide much more support to our clients. Alors bonjour, mon nom c'est Lana Douce, je suis le programme coordinatrice pour notre programme de logement support indépendant. Et cette année, nous sommes fiers que nous étions capables d'augmenter nos réseaux d'appartements dans notre programme de logement de support indépendant et accueillir notre plus récent membre de l'équipe de programmation, Jean-Philippe Bergeron, pour qu'on puisse fournir plus de support pour nos clients.
Great. Thank you, Jean-Philippe. Little audio. Okay. All right. Thank you, Jean-Philippe and Lana. That was a great video. I feel like now we have these bilingual videos. Moi-même, je suis bilingue, je suis francophone, c'est ma première langue. Alors, si vous avez des questions en français, vous pouvez les envoyer aussi. Je peux regarder avec Pat et puis répondre à vos questions de cette façon. Alors, on va continuer. We're going to continue. And I just said I'm bilingual as well. I'm francophone. It's my first language. If you have any questions in French, please feel free to send them over to Pat and I can read over the question and we'll answer them accordingly. Our next is the governance report. So coming spring 2021, we will be entering a new strategic plan for the next upcoming 3 years. And this is something that we'll be working on until the end of the winter, spring 2021. Okay. Also next is the nomination. So I would like to refer to the nominations report and note people to elect and re-elect. If I can get your attention to the document that you would have had received with the description of the nominees. So the following directors have completed the first year, their 2-year term, and will remain on the board. Ms. Joan Desautels and Ms. Stephanie Smith. And then I myself, I've been with Bruce House for 2 years, so now my re-election is up and I'm seeking another 2-year term. And also Ms. Rachel Hitayizu and Ms. Michelle Bedford. I'll just give you a few moments to read over the document if you haven't done so. Okay, can I get a motion to elect the nominees?
We have Rachel.
We have Rachel to motion.
Catherine.
And Catherine as a second. Thank you very much.
And carried.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. So next we will hear from Linda to report on the volunteer program and community recognition.
Our incredible volunteers have contributed over 8,000 hours of their time to Bruce House this fiscal year, which is approximately equivalent to $160,000 a year in salaries, excluding benefits for paid staff. Our volunteers are invaluable to Bruce House. The volunteer program is a crucial part of Bruce House. It provides essential services and support to both client and staff in our programs. Our volunteer program includes our buddy program, where a client is paired up with a buddy volunteer who provides support around psychosocial needs to help reduce social isolation, as well as assist with practical help in the house if a client is in need. Some examples of what the buddy volunteer does: takes a client to an appointment, goes grocery shopping, going out to a movie or a coffee, going for a walk, and helping with laundry and light cleaning. Our dedicated reception and administrative volunteers create a warm, friendly environment for our clients in our office on a regular basis and provide much needed support to our staff. In addition, we have volunteers who have taken the lead in social media, helping write the volunteer newsletter, and graphic design work. Our fundraising and event volunteers provide support in fundraising activities and events such as information booths, pride events, third-party events, and of course our largest fundraiser, A Taste for Life. We have over 60 volunteers engaged with that event in order to make it successful. It is with heartfelt thanks to all of our generous, compassionate, kind, and dedicated volunteers. We celebrate your contribution to supporting the staff, community, and people living with HIV and affected by HIV. Unfortunately, most of our volunteer programming had to be put on hold in March due to the pandemic. However, we are continuing to find ways to adapt our volunteer programming in order to engage our amazing volunteers. I would like to share a quote from one of our buddy volunteers that helps express the invaluable work they do. What I appreciate the most about being a buddy for Bruce House would be the ability to connect one-on-one with an individual that is open to sharing their life experiences and knowledge. It is a privilege to be a support to someone else, and it's amazing to think how weekly social interactions can positively impact another person's mental health. Volunteering gave me a sense of purpose, and I genuinely enjoy being able to help with chores and other tasks. I am grateful to the Bruce House staff, volunteers, and my buddy for providing me this opportunity to learn and to grow. Fundraising and community involvement. Our community support and donor support continues to be strong for people living with and impacted by HIV in Ottawa. During this past fiscal year, Bruce House had record-breaking numbers in funds raised through community support. Dragon Balls and the National Capital Pride Run alone raised over $18,000 for Pride. We had amazing support from Living Color Tattoo, who raised over $8,000 for the Pantry program, which helped meet clients' basic needs such as food and personal care items. Thank you to our community bars, Teas and Swizzles, who have raised funds for our much-needed programs and services as well. And of course, our largest fundraiser, A Taste for Life. This past fiscal year was another huge success because of our volunteers, partnering restaurants, our diners, and our incredible sponsorship with TD. Thank you once again to all of the community supporters. We would not be able to provide our essential programming and services without your commitment to Bruce House. I would also like to take a moment to recognize how the community support has even become stronger through the pandemic. During these uncertain times, the outstanding support we've received from community supporters reaching out to us has been outstanding. A special thank you to TD, who continued to sponsor A Taste for Life this past April of 2020, when we were unable to hold the fundraiser. A special thank you to East India Company and Flora Hall Restaurants, who were determined to still participate in the adapted virtual Taste for Life event, and they still donated 25% of what was made on the evening of the virtual Taste for Life event to Bruce House. A sincere thank you to all the diners who still participated in a virtual Taste for Life to help the partnering restaurants who are struggling so much right now, and the incredible donations they still gave to Bruce House during a very, very uncertain times. Thank you so much. We are so grateful to our community leaders. This year's Community Leadership Award goes to the National Pride Run. A heartfelt thank you to Jeff Morrison, who created the National Capital Pride Run in 2015. He and the Pride Run Committee have worked hard to make this event a great success. This past August marked the 5th anniversary of the Pride Run. To date, the Pride Run has raised over $25,000. This year, Jeff and the Pride Committee adapted the run to a virtual event and raised over $8,000 just this past August. This is thanks to the hard work of the Pride Run Committee, volunteers, community sponsorship, and the Pride Run participants. It is an honor to present this much-deserved Community Leadership Award to Jeff Morrison and the Pride Run Committee. Thank you once again for your dedication to Bruce House. We really look forward to be able to giving this to you in person, hopefully very soon. Thank you.
So on behalf of the National Capital Pride Run, thank you, Bruce House, for this recognition and this honor. We really do appreciate it. When we started up the National Capital Pride Run some 5 years ago, we did it just as a way of creating another event for the LGBTQ plus community in Ottawa to come together, to have some fun, to celebrate. But we knew at the time that we could also help out a cause. And at the time, we knew of the great work, the amazing work that Bruce House does. And so we knew that this was a great organization to support. And that belief hasn't changed at all in the past 5 years. We're really happy that really over the past 5 years, we've been able to donate some $25,000 to Bruce House. And we hope that that amount just keeps going up and up. I first just want to say a thank you to the participants who have taken part in the run over the past 5 years. Thank you for your generosity and your support. I want to thank the businesses and the organizations that have supported the run and helped to make it what it is. Groups like The Running Room or Stroked Ego, Shoppers Drug Mart at Bank and Gladstone. There's a lot to name, and I just want to thank them all for everything they've done to support us. And lastly, I want to thank the organizing committee members over the past 5 years. There's been really a small group of individuals that have helped support and have put in the work to make the run the success that it is. So I want to thank all of them because this has really been a team effort. So once again, to Bruce House, thank you so much for this honor. And to all of you, we hope that we will see you all again in 2021. And I mean, hope to see you in person when we can hopefully come back together. So une fois encore, merci. Thank you very much for this honor.
Wow, that's great. Thank you, Linda. And thank you, Jeff. So we'll be moving on just before we're coming towards the end of our meeting. And one very, very important thing. I would like for everybody to please join us for a moment of silence as we remember those we have lost since our last meeting. Thank you. Thank you for this video. And thank you for joining us this evening. I would like to now call a motion to adjourn, but we'll leave a minute for any comments or questions that might arise from our meeting.
Rachel's just moved to adjourn.
Okay. So we'll get a motion to move And Rachel is gonna move to adjourn the meeting. And a second?
Okay, carried.
Okay, the second was moved. Perfect. Okay, thank you. Good evening. Merci beaucoup. Au revoir. Bonne soirée.